Welcome everyone to this episode of the New Zealand Music Show. Today we are speaking with our guest Ian Moore, the drummer of the new Wellington hardcore band Seven Beliefs and the lead singer and guitarist of grunge band Deadringer. How are you, Ian?
Yo, yeah, man, I'm pretty chill, eh?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You how was your gig the other day on Friday? Was it Friday? Saturday? The EP release.
Oh, no, that hasn't happened yet, bro. Nah, we dropped our EP, but we're doing our release show in June.
What's up with that?
Well, it's because basically the whole EP, right? Me and Fergus, who does vocals, like I wrote it all and Fergus did them, so we're getting other people to like join the band and learn the parts and stuff. So like it kind of like the whole thing started off as it was like a passion project of like mine because like no one's really doing that kind of like metalcore right now. So we just wanted to do something like that, and then we hit up a couple of mates who are kind of into that sort of stuff, and we're like, hey man, we have this like whole EP written and like all this stuff, like do you guys want to play live for it, and then like, you know, write stuff for like the next releases with us and make it more of like a band effort. And everyone was like, yeah. So then, you know, we put out the demo, and then we were like, oh, we should do like a release show, but we need to make sure that everyone like knows the parts and shit. So we put it like 2 months later.
So you wrote the whole album?
Yeah, so like I wrote like all the drums and the guitar and the bass, and then Fergus, who does vocals, he did all the vocal patterns and the lyrics and all that.
So the vocalist wrote all the lyrics as well?
Like, yeah.
Are they like thematic? Like, are they inspired by anything, the lyrics?
I think it's like, I don't know. I'm not really like, I don't really think I should be speaking on Fergus's part, but like, Fergus's, if you're familiar with his last band, like Nail Gun, where it was like all the lyrics were like real, like kind of ignorant power violence, and they were more of like a party band. It's a lot like, it's a complete opposite of that basically. Like, if you know him, like, it's the opposite of what you would expect. Like they're definitely a lot more like in depth and like profound. It's like you read them and you're like, man, like he's definitely writing about something and it's definitely passionate about stuff. But like, yeah, I don't think I should be the one to like exactly pinpoint what his lyrics are about. But yeah, no, his lyrics are definitely like very profound, like real deep. Like I remember, because I didn't read the lyrics until after when we chucked them up on at the Elimination Records Bandcamp, and I remember reading them and be like, fuck man, like these are some real sick lyrics. Like he's definitely like gone all out and just like writing about something he really fucking cares about. So that's real awesome. And to work with someone who can write like real good lyrics and like real passionate lyrics is like truly like,
yeah, they're written, they're real poetic, eh? I
man.
think that's the best way to describe it. Super poetic.
Yeah, that's really a good way to describe it. That's definitely a good word.
I think they really quite match the sound of the album. The album's quite a raw sounding album. Like vocally, the instruments, that's something that stood out to me. It's something you don't hear is super, super raw sounding albums, and you managed to really pull that off. Yeah, like in the digital age as well, pulling off like the rawest sounding album.
I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, there are a lot of like real good New Zealand metal bands, and like, you know, but all the stuff that they're doing, especially on like metalcore, I feel like a lot of like the New Zealand metal bands and New Zealand metalcore bands, like you listen to their stuff and it is real techy and real hi-fi production. And I think a lot of the bands we're drawing from, because they're kind of like early metalcore bands, like early hardcore bands like Zayo and like Seven Angels, Seven Plagues and shit, like their production's like filthy and raw. And even like a lot of like the new and upcoming hardcore bands from like America and Australia and stuff, they've definitely gone back to that a lot, which I think's real cool, because you hear so many metal albums and it's like, sure, it's like amazingly produced, but it all just sort of starts sounding the same, eh? So we wanted to do something like real raw and kind of like old school inspired. Yeah,
I really like it too. It's something when I was listening to it today that came to mind was that
that's sick.
Is that the intro with the Life is Beautiful part, or
no? It's just like instrumental.
Yeah. What's the song with Life is Beautiful? Where did you get that from? I couldn't
Fractured
find it.
Life. That's a sample off the movie Gummo. If you've seen that movie, it's a real fucked movie.
I've never seen it.
It's like this art film, and it's basically like centered in America, and it just kind of follows like trailer trash, and it's just this like it's just a super fucked like art film, because we wanted a sample, and fucking Rob, who does like basically all the Elimination Records stuff, he was like, bro, you should just sample Gummo. And I'm like, yeah, this is a sick sample. But the thing about that track though is it's like it's not on the Spotify version because real faintly in the background there's like a Burzum track. So the copyright's a bit kind of dodged, so he couldn't put it on the Spotify, but it's on the Bandcamp one because the Bandcamp people, I'm pretty sure people can get that, can get it for free or like whatever, so it doesn't sort of get in the way of all the copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you chose Gummo because I remember when Scott and I went and saw Silent Torture live, they used a clip from The Exorcist.
Yeah, they used. You know what you do? We're mates with I know Aiden and Liam in that band. I was like, you should do shows with them. They're fucking full on.
Yeah, no, Silent Torture are cool. Like I'm real good mates with Elijah and Liam. They're both sick cunts, and like like they're like their whole thing, I guess, with like The Exorcist and all that is like, you know, their lyrics are definitely very like horror movie inspired and shit, and like, you know, it's very grotesque lyrics because that's just sort of their vibe, being like a brutal death metal band. But I guess for us, like, we're sort of, I guess, sort of the not like the opposite of that, but you know, we just don't write gory lyrics. Like the lyrics are, I guess, as you know, Scott said, like they're quite poetic, like, you know. So it's good to have like a sample which somewhat sort of like reflects that kind of vibe, you know. And definitely like a lot of the imagery that we've been using, like flowers and stuff, and like all that kind of like ties in with that whole sort of like life thing. It's like that sort of like melancholic sort of vibe, you know, like yeah.
Even the album cover, you released it on cassette, and you got the album cover and stuff. It's got this real grungy vibe, but it's not grunge music, obviously. But it's got that real fucking lo-fi metal sound.
Well, it's like a nihilist sort of grunge like theme overall is what I felt listening to it.
Yeah, I mean like that because the album art is like it's actually like the sculpture in Wellington which sits on the waterfront.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So it's a sculpture which was on the waterfront, and then we just sent it to our mate Dallas, who's like doing quite a lot of like work for us, doing like design stuff for the band, and he's helped out lots. He just did that and just chucked a bunch of filters on it, and we wanted that kind of like a lot of those like DIY like 90s kind of like Poison the Well kind of album cover, but it ended up sort of looking like kind of like new metal revival-y SoundCloud kind of thing. We all sort of fucked with that too. We're like, fuck yeah, vibes. Like that's cool as. I mean, don't talk shit about new metal though, because new metal's actually sick as. Like,
we all jam new metal. Actually,
I fuck with new metal hard, eh?
That's good.
There's so many great like new metal like revivalist bands happening right now, like Vane and like Alpha Wolf and like all these real fucking sick bands who are just like basically infusing like modern metalcore with new metal and having like they're just real fucking cool, I reckon. And they're doing it in such a way which it's not super duper corny, even though the corniness I think is something very unique to new metal, which I also love. But like, it's not super duper corny, and it's just real fucking heavy and angry, and has those like real bouncy riffs, like those 7-string bouncy riffs, which is like super cool. To like,
it's like perfect. Their new album didn't flow with me as much as I hoped it would, but like their most popular one is totally worth a listen.
Fuck yeah. You have to link it to me after, and I'll give it a listen, eh? I'm always keen hearing people's suggestions and what other people are listening to and stuff. Like, it's always real cool.
How did you get into this sort of music?
Like hardcore, right?
Yeah.
Basically, because like back when I was like 15 and stuff, because I always used to be like I used to be like a mad like just like full on metalhead and just listen to like shit tons of like Slipknot and Metallica and like Trivium and Killswitch Engage and all those bands. And like the only shows which were like the only heavy shows which were all ages which I could go to were hardcore shows. So like,
oh really?
Yeah, so because there were no like all ages metal shows down in Wellington, and there used to be like a fucking huge hardcore scene, you know, like it was very like youth group centered and youth culture centered. Like they always would have them at Zeal and stuff, but it was cool because it's like, you know, someone like me who was like real angsty and like needed like an outlet for like, you know, teen angst or whatever. Going to like hardcore shows was awesome, and I met like a bunch of friends through that, and then I'd listen to what they would listen to. So there would generally be like, you know, I got real into like Comeback Kid originally and like those sort of bands, and then like Knocked Loose and Jesus Peace and like Code Orange, like early Code Orange kind of stuff. And I just went more and more down that rabbit hole. And because I always like really liked like metalcore, like I was always really into Killswitch Engage. Like they were like one of the main reasons I started playing guitar and shit. And like kind of was like At the Gates, like In Flames kind of riffs and stuff. And like a lot of the hardcore bands basically just like take that and just like put real filthy mosh parts and breakdowns. And I think it just had to do with like the culture and the people I was hanging out with. Like they would all just listen to that. So like I would listen to it and be like, fuck yeah, this is sick. And so like for me, like this new band is definitely like I feel like it's almost me like paying back like what the scene has given to me, like it's given me like like a social group and like a lifestyle and like all this stuff. And it's like the least I can do is like chuck on a couple of shows, like play in a band which is doing the same sort of stuff, and like put on all ages shows so like other young people can come who can't go to like all the 18 plus shows at Valhalla, and just like come and listen to some music and get into some bands, like get involved. Like it's definitely just through like shows and stuff is like how I got into hardcore and all that sort of stuff. But if it was like the thing is, it's like if there wasn't all ages like fucking any sort of metal, I would probably get way harder into that, or not way harder, like just as hard into that kind of stuff. But it was just that hardcore was the only one who was doing it, so like I was like, fuck yeah, hardcore's sick.
Wellington's got a real good metal scene.
Yeah.
At the moment, Christchurch used to have a real hefty Christchurch used to have a real hefty metalcore scene back a decade ago, maybe. I know that there was a massive metalcore scene around there that was
Christchurch. Yeah, Christchurch has a lot of real cool bands happening. I mean, like death metal's definitely been super prominent over these past couple of years. Like all the shows which I've been heading out to, which are like heavy shows at Valhalla, have been like death metal shows, seeing Silent Torture and seeing Depraved and seeing Organectomy and all that sort of stuff. But no, Christchurch has a real fucking sick death metal scene. I mean, it's all pretty like incestuous in the way that like a lot of the members are in each other's bands and stuff, but so many bands from there are fucking dope. Like shout out to like Organectomy. I mean, I'm fucking ripping their merch, but like they're awesome.
Is that the t-shirt, Organectomy?
Yeah, they're real sick.
True.
They're signed to Unique Leader, which is sick. Which is like, who's signed to Unique Leader? I'm pretty sure like Decrepit Birth are signed to them, and like Rings of Saturn used to be signed to them, and it's the dude from Deeds of Flesh who died recently used to run all that sort of stuff, like run that whole label. And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I think Abominable Putridity's on there as well. So they're killing it. Like,
true.
They're killing it.
Those guys
just
are
like
monsters.
Yeah, super fucking sick. Just like Organectomy, like super good slam, and like you also have like Plague of the Fallen, which is like a bit more just like straight death metal-y, and you have Secularity, which is real good tech death as well from Christchurch, and Mercy, who are like real good deathcore. And all these bands, like you listen to their releases and stuff, and even though like Mercy are like real fresh, like they're killing it right now. There's so many Christchurch bands who are just killing it and just putting out solid as hell death metal releases. Yeah, don't sleep on that Christchurch scene because it's awesome.
Do you reckon you would go down there? Because you got quite a few ties to the underground community of New Zealand, Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. You should.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like with the heavy scene, it is all pretty small. So it's kind of like if you just put out a heavy release and you just post in a couple groups, people are genuinely like pretty psyched on it. But yeah, no, I'm definitely keen with like Severed Beliefs to do shows around the place and around New Zealand, because I've got homies down in Christchurch who I think can't pay to come up here to come see us, and like there's some homies in Auckland who are real stoked on it too. Like yeah, like I'm real keen to do stuff. It's just like when opportunities come. I mean, for the time being, I think it's just more so like playing this release show and seeing what else gets offered to us down in Wellington, and just like working on the second release, which I guess will be like our first like proper EP, because it'll be the first time that like all of us in the band will be writing the music instead of just like me at my laptop like midiing and drums and like writing it all out like that, which I think
Are you guys like right into it now, or are you taking like a break period after that first?
Nah, we're right on it. Like me and Jasper, who's playing guitar, like every weekend we're basically just like sussing out, because I've got my drum kit set up here, and we're just like smashing out new songs and stuff for just like a new release, because I think we've got a couple of things coming up to do with like Elimination Records, where they want a couple more songs from us. So we're just like getting right on it, because I think it's just all of us are just like super duper psyched to all be in a band like writing stuff. So
Who runs Elimination Records? Is that? I thought that was you. Is that
nah,
because
that's
you
not
invited
me.
me to the page?
Yeah, nah, I'm like I do some like work with them, but it's my friend Rob, who's kind of like he's been in the hardcore scene for a while. Yeah, Rob definitely has a lot of stuff planned for Elimination Records, and people will find out in time, and it's definitely something to be very psyched about.
And the other one is you had Elimination Records, and then you invited me to a
Oh, Necropup, bro.
Necropup. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Necropup. That's like my more sort of thing. So like Necropup is like what I'm running shows through, and it's what I'm doing. Like I want to start doing recording stuff through there too, and like producing and mixing bands. So it's yeah. So that's why I'm gonna run. I mean, I did a couple of shows like running shows with like Deadringer last year, which we'll get to, and like I basically because the only thing I can draw like semi-well is that dog. So every single poster for like shows I put on, it just has that dog on it, which is
I guess that's
cool
because it's an icon. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just something. So if you see that dog somewhere, they'll be like, oh, that's like Ian's show. But yeah, it's like I was like, fuck, I should probably just put like a page together so when I'm running shows, I can just do it all through there. So that's more my thing, and that's what we're doing the release show through. And Elimination Records is just like, you know, because we're on Elimination Records with Severed Belief, so they're sort of like co-hosting it with us. But that's more for like running shows and stuff. So yeah, most shows I think that you'll see which Elimination Records will be part of, I think will be done with Necropup. But Necropup will be doing other stuff with like other bands which aren't necessarily just hardcore. Like we've gotten hit up a couple of times to do some like put on some indie shows and stuff, and just like do like anything basically. So
will Necropup do your other band?
Yeah. Well, that's like basically like the main reason I started running shows is because when I started Deadringer, no one gave a shit about us. So I was like, oh, I'll just put on shows myself. So then I just started doing that, and then just putting other bands on. And then I was like, I'm actually like running shows, so I should.
What shows did you start off with Deadringer? Were they just like, because you had like in your video clip, they were a house party, I think was one of them, or was it actual?
It's basically first couple of shows we did, because we did quite a lot of shows last year. I tried to like get like at least one show a month. Sometimes I think we did 2 or 3 shows a month. But just like around like the local venues in Wellington, like Valhalla and like Caroline and San Fran and like them. And then we got offered by Hamish Morgan, who goes on to Elbow Drop and does like High Tai Home Wreckers, which is High Tai is like a place in Wellington where he puts on house shows, which is real cool. And we played his first one, which was last year, but I think he's done about like 4 of them now, 4 or 5, I think. He's really onto it. He tries to put on a show every couple of months, and they're always real sick. And he always tries to put on like new bands, which is real cool. But yeah, I chucked on a couple shows last year with the dog on it, and they were called like Cool Bands and whatnot because I couldn't come up with a name. So I was like, oh well, the bands are cool, so you know. So it was yeah, I think one was like Cool Bands and Whatnot, and the other one was Cool Bands and Whatnot 2 Electric Boogaloo, which just had different bands on it. But every single band I've put on, every single like show I put on, I've always had Deadringer on it, just because it's like, oh, like this is just a good idea to have my own band on my own show, because it's the main reason I started putting on shows. But the release show is, I think, the first show which hasn't had Deadringer on it, and it has Severed Beliefs instead. So.
How has it worked for you? Because you were saying that you decided to put on your own shows. Was it quite difficult to get into venues like Valhalla and San Fran?
Kinda. It's like, I would say like my best advice if you're like wanting to put on shows and you don't know where to start, legit just go onto the website, find the email of the person who like runs it, and just like give them an email, like, and just ask, like that's honestly like what you do. Like I feel like people just get real freaked out about it, and are just like, oh, it's like, you know, it must be real hard to get in with these venues. But like all you have to do is basically just send an email being like, hey, I'm looking to put on a show of like this lineup. And that's what I did. Like when I started off, I would just email venues and just be like, hi, I want to chuck on a show. Like, what do I have to do to chuck on a show? And yeah, like I guess at the start it was real daunting, but like now at this point, like you end up getting tight with like the people who like run the venues, and you get to know them, and you get to know like how it works. And it's just like, as long as like you get like the posters sorted and you have a lineup sorted, for most places they're just like super stoked that you managed to do that. So yeah, like
You're pretty tight with the guys at Valhalla.
Yeah,
Or do you
yeah,
work
I do,
there or anything?
I just do like casual work. So like every now and then I'll just get hit up and I'll be like, hey, do you want to do this? And it's just kind of a random job every time. So some days I'll be working bars. Some days I'll just be like moving drum kits and shit. Like yeah.
And is that through you doing gigs with them?
It's just me talking to people. Like yeah, I mean Ben is like, shout out to Ben because he's like legit like the coolest dude, and like the most chill dude who you can go up to and talk to. And yeah, it is just like just getting tight with people, like just going and talking to them and being like, yo, what's up, and being proactive and just meeting people and just like having those connections. But yeah, like most people when you go talk to them, like they don't bite, so it's sort of like yeah, it is just like the power of just like going up to someone, just like talking to them, you know.
That's kind of what we did with this podcast. I just messaged a bunch of fans and said,
Yeah,
"Are you
fuck
keen?"
yeah.
And they all said yes, pretty much. Like no one's gonna.
Yeah,
be like,
hell
no.
no.
We're
I
too
mean,
good for you. But
it is like
No.
legit. The power of asking is like so fucking powerful, you know? Like just the fact that you just like ask something. Like most people say yes if it's like, you know, like especially for like smaller bands and stuff, like you barely get a chance to be interviewed. So most people are just real stoked on it. Be like, fuck yeah, I'll talk about shit for like an hour or half an hour, whatever. Like
Yeah, man. Yeah, like even Parasitic Infestation was the and that's Silent Torture's
Yeah, Liam
other
Hamm's other band,
because
eh?
they kind of went. Yeah, like Ada McGorry's in that, and Josh's mate Shay's in that band too on drums, and they like just released this the song with Slam Worldwide
Yeah.
and Extraterrestrial Gastropod, and like the song is like 5,000 views already, and they obviously got connections to Slam Worldwide. I just asked them, and they seem pretty keen to talk about Silent Torture and
That's cool.
Parasitic Infestation, which is like they're both pretty well-known bands in the
Definitely,
community.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I remember when Parasitic Infestation, like, because I remember being invited to that page, like, pretty early on and hearing their just, like, rehearsal demo, like, which was, I legit just think it was
Yeah.
just, like, a phone in a room. I was just like, fuck, this is just, like, fat-ass slams. But, yeah, like, there's so many New Zealand bands who get their stuff showcased on, Slam Worldwide. I mean, like, you know, I think, like, that helped really kick off Organectomy as well. And, like, I know Secularity released their thing on there, and Depraved did as well from Wellington. Yeah, Slam Worldwide is definitely, like, super cool and helped so many bands out, especially in Slam, because I guess Slam is just, like, such a niche genre where the people who are fans of Slam, like, don't care about how big or small the band is. And Slam Worldwide showcases, like, absolutely everything. So, you know, I think Slam is just it's a good community. I mean, of course, there's like the purists and like Slam and stuff, but as a genre, when you get to those like kind of like niche extreme metal genres, like so many people are just keen to hear new music, which is super cool.
Yeah, but you're pretty into some of that niche.
Yeah.
They're fucking.
Well, you just find it like, and Scott sent me through Parasitic Infestation. I was just so glad to see, because I look through Slam Worldwide pages occasionally just to see look for new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's good to see, because you know everyone's like Slam, like Guttural Slug,
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. But it's good to see the smaller bands as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of hidden gems on that page. Some of the stuff's real funny though, like real out the gate, just like over the top Slam. But that's sometimes what you want.
That's like the best thing about
Yeah,
Slam.
yeah,
Like,
no.
yeah, like Parasitic Infestation starts off with from the Big Liz show.
Yeah,
they have a sample from the Big Liz show,
Yeah.
and those guys are like the most crack up dudes. You hang out with them, and they're so funny.
Yeah.
And then they like release this music that's gotten the biggest balls on it. It's just fucking. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
I think with like Slam and stuff as well, and like a lot of those extreme metal genres like brutal death metal too, it's sort of like one of those genres where not everyone is like taking it like the music 100% seriously just because it's so ridiculously heavy. You know, like everyone kind of just has like a sense of humor about it, which is sort of crack ups, you know?
Sometimes there's parts in it when you're like, that's
Oh
fucking
fuck
sick.
yeah!
This is
When
Annihilator,
I say that, I'm definitely not being like, oh, the music's shitty and like people should laugh at it. I'm just saying like, you know, it's just ridiculously fucking heavy to the point where it is just a bit crack up. So it's just like, you know, like I was working on like this Tech Death release with a couple of my mates, and the lyrics are totally like about medieval torture. But the guy who wrote it he was like, oh, I just tried to write like the goriest shit I could, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's hilarious. Like, you know, it's like Cannibal Corpse.
Did you ever
like,
get to
you know, I'm sure. I mean, maybe
Oh, yeah.
Chris Barnes took a lot of the shit real seriously because he's fucked. But I'm sure that their second vocalist, you know, finds it a bit humorous or like, you know, it's all just
The
like
Nick.
super over the top, but in like the best way possible, in the way which it is just kind of like super duper crack ups.
Did you ever release that Slam project you're doing? Because you do heaps of projects. I see it on Instagram all
Yeah.
the time. Did you ever release that tech deck
Nah,
one?
because I don't know. It could still come out. I've got a bunch of stuff written, but like I basically spent like the last like year or so just like trying to like get my guitar skills like super duper good to be able to play that stuff. And then I was like, I don't really fuck with tech death too much apart from like Necrophagist, and like that's basically
Yeah.
the extent of like my tech death like enjoyment. And then the guy who was doing vocals, he's still like, oh, I just need to write lyrics for the other couple of songs. I'm like, bro, like no stress if you like you don't end up doing that anytime soon. Like it'll probably come out like eventually, but my hands are pretty full with like Deadringer and Severed Beliefs and Necropop and like all this other stuff where I'm like, it's just more of like a fun kind of like a passion project which will like maybe come out in the future.
Yeah, man. Fair enough. Because I remember because you were getting pretty tight on the sweep picking and stuff. That's what I got to the point when I was sweep picking. I was real tight at my guitar skills, and then like I turned 18 and I stopped I don't really listen to much of it. The only death metal I listen to now is I think I listen to a little bit of Annihilator now and then, and Enterprise Earth, and that was about it. So I kind of got out of listening to tech, which I hate because I don't hone my guitar skills.
Well, that's the thing is like I haven't practiced much sweeping recently, so like now when I start sweeping, I am like real rusty, and I'm like like the thing about sweep picking is it's like a technique which you can learn it, and it takes ages like to get down, and you can get it like, but then once you start getting the patterns, you can pick it up real quickly. But then when you stop practicing, like a week later, you just get shit at it again, and you're just like, fuck, like, you know, you have to really maintain practicing sweeping to like continuously be good at it. It's not like, you know, playing bar chords where it's like once you have it, you have it basically. Like, it's something which you can gain and lose real quickly.
Yeah, man, I feel that. I haven't even tried sweeping in ages. It's like one of those things when you're 15 and you're like, fuck yeah, it's so sick, and you spend the next 3 years of your life wasting it on metronomes and fucking sweep picking patterns.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, though, like overall learning that stuff, and like I think for me, the most important thing I got out of like learning all that tech death stuff is like, since you practice it all to a metronome, I think your timing in general, no matter what you're playing, just gets so much better, and it's just so much easier to play to a metronome. So overall, like it definitely improves your playing somewhat because it's like your coordination gets way better, and I think those skills you'll definitely keep when doing that kind of stuff, but you definitely lose picking like way too quick once you learn it.
Recording at home also helps with
definitely.
Too. You just use Logic or whatever. That's what I've been using, and it's just helped so much with timing.
Is that album you just released, that EP? Is that did you go to studio record that, or did you?
We did it all at my place, So all those drums are all MIDI drums. Shout out to Superior Drummer 3, and all those guitars just like it's all amp sims, and I recorded them. I recorded them all at my place. But yeah, I guess one of the big challenges with that is since I MIDI'd out all the drums, now I have to learn all the parts. I've just been going real hard, like learning drums and like picking up drums, because I stopped playing drums for ages. But then we couldn't find a drummer for Severed Belief, so I was just like, oh fuck it, I'll play drums. So yeah, I've just been like, I bought a double kick so I could like start honing down on that real hard, and like, you know, just been practicing all those drum parts. So like that's definitely been like one of the bigger things. Like I would have totally recorded everything, like recorded proper drums and stuff if we had a full band and we recorded them all as a band. But like since it was like only me and Fergus, you know, doing the vocals, I was just kind of like, oh, I'll just MIDI drum it and chuck it out as a demo, because it's more so like for me, like the release is like I was just more keen to put something out there which is hardcore and just like make the statement that it's like, hey, this genre is still alive in New Zealand, because, you know, there's quite a lot of stuff about like, oh, the hardcore scene's dead, and it's like, what's wrong with the hardcore scene? Like nothing's happening. It's like people, you know, like trying to like blame on specific things or certain instances. And I was just like, hey man, like I'm really passionate about the genre. Like I'm quite young compared to a lot of people who are real into it. And it's like, I just wanted to get a release out there. So for me, like I feel like I kind of cut corners on some of the quality on it, and if I spent like a little bit more time on it, like I'd be a lot happier with it personally. But I think people are just real stoked that it's just like there's a new hardcore band doing something, which is like, I guess is the more important thing. So this next release, which we're working on, I feel like I'm going to spend a lot more time trying to get better and just like better production and like better songwriting and just like record everything properly.
Was the one for what was the other band?
Deadringer.
Yeah, sorry, I'm shit with names. That's also studio recorded and like all that production stuff because it looked pretty high.
Yes. So the Deadringer one was done in a studio because I study music at Massey, so it means I get the facilities to all the studios. So we got some mates and we got my mate Ruben to come and just be the man behind the desk. And yeah, all that's actually recorded. So that's real drums and real bass and all the vocals are done in the studio there.
Man, that song sounds tight. Brain Dead sounds fucking tight, man.
No, that was good. I spent a lot of time mixing that as well. I remember sending like 10 mixes back to like the band and then just like being like, oh, can we just have this slightly louder or something? I'll be like, oh man, now I've just got to like go in, slightly tweak something, re-export it, send it back, and then I'll be like, oh, could you turn it up a little more? And then I'll be like, oh man, go back and do it. And it was like, that was a really good learning curve for me as well, like learning to mix, because that was like the first track like I've ever like properly sat down and tried to mix. So
yeah, man, it's pretty good.
Oh, thanks, man.
I really like the bass tone in that fucking band as well.
Yeah,
in all your music, actually, your bass tone stands out real well.
Oh, thanks.
Give me your secrets.
Yeah, I can give you some cheeky like bass secrets if you want right here. Like legit, like it's just orange amps, man. Those orange bass amps are just so sick. Legit, it's like,
oh man.
Yeah, those bass amps, like the way which like I would go about mixing bass, it's like keep a dry DI. Like I learned this from a couple of my mates who do it, who mix stuff. Who he has like the most incredible bass tones. So I'm like, how do you do that? And it's basically like have a DI straight out of the amp and a DI straight from the bass. So you have the dry one. And basically just blend them together. Yeah, and then it just like ends up sounding pretty sick. I mean, of course, there's like, you know, compression and EQ and all of that, but it all depends on your mix as well, and it all depends on it. But like honestly, just getting a good bass guitar and just like a sturdy bass amp and just like taking the DI out of that, like it will sound pretty fucking sick. We're lucky that Will, who plays bass in Deadringer, also has a really nice sounding bass. So
what bass? He's got a Fender Jazz bass there.
He has like a weird custom built one which we found on like a news. I think it was on NZ Guitarist and Bassist for like $600. I tagged him in it because he didn't have a bass for a while when he was playing with us. So we're like, get it, and he got it, and like, you know, it sounded real good, and it sounds real good through like any amp, anything. It's just like a real well-rounded bass.
That's me.
Yeah.
Was he a bass player or is he a guitar player that went to bass? Or?
He's I think he started off as a bass player, but like when I met him when I was in year 9 at high school, he was like year 12, and he was like the sweet pick, like Animals as leaders like guy. Like he was mad into that stuff. And he had an 8-string. He'd like one of his Ibanez 8-strings and just sweep nonstop. But he started on bass, and then I think he mainly went to guitar, and now he's just like gone back to bass. So, but he's like super insane. Like he composes, like he's just finished studying music at Vic and composition at Vic, and he like writes music for like film and stuff, and he's just like fucking incredible. I've got no idea why he's wasting his time in Deadringer, because like some of the stuff he composes, like it's just like, you know, he's like composed for like a full piece orchestra before for film and stuff, and it's just like mind boggling like how he can do that sort of stuff.
How old is the dude?
He is, I think he just turned 23, like legit, like a couple days ago. Happy birthday, Will.
Oh, truly.
So yeah,
Will.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet anyway? Like, was it Deadringer first or was it Severed Beliefs?
It was Deadringer. So like because I used to be in this other band, and
Retrospect?
Yeah, it was that one. And Retrospect was just breaking up because everyone was going to uni, so it's like, oh, I should just start another band. And I knew Connor, the drummer, because we went to like middle school together, and he's always been a fucking crazy ass drummer. He's always just been skits as hell, just on the drums. Like I remember back when we were both like 12 years old, and he was like, we would have like these showcases at our school for like all like the music students, and like I would be there like playing like this real sloppy version of like 21 Guns by Green Day, and then he would be on there and he would like, I'm pretty sure he played Chop Suey, and it was just like, yo, like what the hell, like you're 12 years old and you can play Chop Suey, you absolute madman. Like I can barely hold 2 sticks and play the drums, and then it's just him. So like, and then I just saw on his Instagram story he's like, oh man, I'm just so keen to form a band. And I was like, yo, this is a super rare opportunity of a drummer like wanting to be in a band. So I just kind of took that opportunity, and he's like, oh, I just want to do like kind of grungy sort of stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I can get down with that. So then, yeah, it all just went from there. And then I was at Will's flat, and because Josh, who plays bass in Severed Beliefs, was originally going to play bass in Deadringer, but he was moving. Well, he was up here temporarily because he was studying Dunedin at the time. So he was just filling in at practices, and he used to flat with Will, who plays bass in Deadringer, and we were just over there, and we are like, oh, yo, like, you know, we've been looking for a bassist, and he's like, oh, I'll be your bassist, and we're like, oh, okay, you can be the bassist, and then, you know, it just happened, man. Like, it was just kind of like that.
That's me. Do you write the music for Deadringer, all of it, or does everyone kind of contribute with that one?
It's changing quite a lot. Like for a while, like it was just like me, and like I would come, but it would be more so like I would come to practice with like a skeleton of a song, and then we would all kind of hash it out and like suss out the rest of it together. But recently it's becoming more and more collaborative. And so like we'll like jam out songs at practices, and I think it's cool. I think that's such an important part of like getting somewhere with a band, where it's like you can trust your other band members to collaborate in a way where it just doesn't sound like you're just like jamming out for like 2 or 3 minutes, you know? And like that, it still sounds like stylistically consistent with the other music. And I think, that's definitely one of the best parts about being in a band, is just like being able to like jam out whole songs and practices and just being like, yo, we just wrote that all together. So it's slowly becoming more and more collaborative with writing, which is great.
Are there any musicians in New Zealand that you would like to collaborate with? Anyone that like?
There's so many. There's so many, man. There's so many talented people in New Zealand. Like, there's so many. I would love to do. Yeah, it's such a hard question, because like so many people come to mind that it's like option paralysis, because it's just like, fuck, man. Like, you're giving me anyone in New Zealand to work with. Like, there's so many homies that I would just like.
You could pick one. Just pick one.
I can't pick one because I'll be dogging on so many people by not saying it. Like, you know, I'd love just to do like some like, and I've talked to him about it, but I'd be real keen to do something with Isaac Lundy, who was in Mishap, and just do some like fun thing. I don't know what it would be, but he's like, for a while he was real into tech death, and was talking to him for a while, and I think, you know, we were like, oh, we should do like a tech death thing, and like that's real cool. Or like I don't know, it'd be sick to do something with Liam Hand as well, because he's an awesome guy and super chill, like, and you know, like he's a fucking crazy ass vocalist. But there are like so many amazing people, and especially like going to uni and like you know, seeing even more like insane musicians, you're just kind of like, holy fuck, like, you know, there's so many great musicians out there in New Zealand, and it's unbelievable. And I think it's super cool that there is a network for people to meet other musicians, and how you can just go to shows and just like go up and talk to these people. Like, you know, it's kind of insane. And I think New Zealand's really unique in that way, where the scene is big and there are a lot of good musicians, but it's not like, you know, like America, where it's just like there's so many more people, and it's so much harder to like scope out the right people to do it, because, you know, there's so many people.
Do you reckon New Zealand scene, New Zealand music in the underground particularly, specifically, is underappreciated? And
I think internationally, New Zealand is making more and more of a name of itself. I mean, with like, if you're talking like in the grand scheme of things, you have bands like the Beths and like Miss June, who are touring Australia quite regularly. And I think over these past couple of years, New Zealand has been making more of a name of itself, and I think that there are lots of real cool things happening in New Zealand, which is underappreciated. But like and like it's kind of like a national sense, you got to take into consideration how many people are there in like New Zealand, like
5
6
million,
million. 5 million?
6 million? Is it 5 million? Yeah, I think it's 5 million. Look it up.
5 million.
I think
Really
it's still,
important.
I think
Google
it's still under 5.
Still under 5. Okay. Well,
And how many of that percent actually
yeah, it's like well, first of all, like how many of that percent of people are people who would go to shows, and how many of those people are into, you know, whatever kind of music. And it's like it's sort of like, to put it in comparison, I'm pretty sure there's more people living in Melbourne than there are in New Zealand as an entirety, or somewhere pretty close. Like, it's kind of ridiculous.
I heard Henry from Alien Weaponry said something like at Wacken, when he played at Wacken, there are more people at Wacken than there are as a metal community in New Zealand, which is just insane.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. Like,
imagine
absolutely,
the whole
like,
of New Zealand.
yeah, but that's just because Varken's fucking huge and Europeans love metal. Like, you know, like there's such a big European crowd for metal, and Varken is like the biggest metal festival in the world. So like, you're bound to get a fucking huge crowd for that. But yeah, like for a band like Alien Weaponry, I mean, I guess they're such a good example of like a metal band from New Zealand who've made it in the grand scheme.
Quite well. They're like ripping shit up.
Yeah, they're doing super well.
Headlining festivals.
Yeah, they're really killing it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that,
did you hear the new song?
Nah, I haven't.
Yeah, they released one yesterday.
I'm not personally like super into what they do, but like I respect the fucking hell out of that band, and you know, their hustle's insane. But like stylistically, like the music's not my thing, but like, you know, they're killing it, and they're definitely like giving a name for New Zealand in like the metal scene, I think, you know, which is super.
Yeah,
and it's like, who knows like what will come out of it, and you know, who knows, like they're also super young, like they're like our age, like who knows where they're gonna be in like the next couple of years, and it's like, you know, like how big is stuff gonna get for them, and it's really exciting to see a band, and I feel like there's like a real like tall poppy syndrome and like New Zealand metal culture where, you know, you have a lot of like, Alien Weaponry, like all this, all that, and it's like, but at the end of the day, like, you know, they are successful and they're a New Zealand band, and it's like, you know, that's fucking sick. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, man.
To go back to the talking about New Zealand community versus like the music community of New Zealand versus internationally, how did Me First and the Gimme Gimme's show come about with Deadringer?
I think
did they contact you?
So
or did you contact them, or was that an intermediary thing?
So with Chicks That Scream, which is the promotion company who did that, they just hit us up. I think someone else dropped our name somewhere. So I don't know if that was like any of the other bands playing like the Auckland show or something, but we legit just got message from that, and then we're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, we'll do that. Like,
that's wild.
It was super buzzy because like for me, like it was the first like, and I think the only international slot I've ever played for like an international band, and it was just like super cool to be a part of that. But the cool thing about like Chicks That Scream is like, shout out to them as a promotion company, because for every single like band which they brought here, which they've brought so many really cool bands, they always have like different and like new or like not like the usual pick of opening acts. Like I feel like sometimes with some promoters you can basically like guess who's going to open because they'll just pick the same people, and it's always like the same like one real big band who's going to open for like whatever genre of music. But with Chicks That Scream, considering they bring over like a lot of punk acts, they always seem to vary it up with who's opening, which I think is like really good and gives a lot of exposure and encouragement to new bands. So fucking shout out to them.
That's sick. I like that they did that, because the international acts are not nearly as common as they are in Australia, for example. If they give a band like yours who you've released one song, right, for Deadringer, and they gave you the opportunity to open up for the Gimme Gimmes, which is an international act that has come to New Zealand, they could have just picked any band. That was it's pretty surreal, eh? I was like, really yo, someone's actually kind of cares about my band. Like, that's pretty cool, eh? No, it's definitely it was definitely real awesome of them to do. And it's and again, like, it is like, you see, like, for example, like Propaganda coming here, and Unsanitary Napkin are opening for them in Wellington, and it's like, I've never seen Unsanitary Napkin play. I might be wrong though, but I haven't seen them play any other international slots. I think it's a real cool pick for a band, just because it's like, who are they? Like,
they're like, it's like it's just real ham, like crust punk kind of vibe, like, you know, just like real punky, super punky.
And for Deadringer, in your description, what's Audio Tree for?
Do you guys know about Audio Tree? No. Audio Tree is basically just this thing in America, which is they do actually bands from everywhere, and it's just like a live session YouTube channel which do live sessions of cool bands, and a lot of the bands which we listen to that we were inspired by our own Audio Tree. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we played shows and people have come up to us and it's like, oh, you sound like a band who would be on Audio Tree. So it's like, we'll just call ourselves an Audio Tree core band. Yeah, I didn't know people actually read the description, so it's just like something. I'm pretty sure it's something real dumb, but like, you know.
Oh no,
But before we were doing it, we were setting out the questions. And can you read what it says next to it, Scott? Don't ask.
but I wanted to
Looks
ask.
stupid.
But I don't know. I don't listen to Audio Tree. Why did you keep it invisible?
I don't know.
That's your homework, Scott, is to listen to Audio Tree. Go type out
I'll
Audio
listen
Tree
to-
and hit subscribe because it's definitely worth it. So many cool bands on Audio Tree.
Do you have any more music for Deadringer coming up?
Yeah, we should. We always get asked that question. We're like, oh, when's next Deadringer coming out? Because we kind of just dropped one single, and then we were like, some stuff kind of happened, which was gonna be real cool, and then we're holding off releasing anything because of it. But then it's just kind of like stuff didn't exactly pan out. So we just end up sort of like not releasing anything for ages. But we just recorded a couple new songs, and I think we're gonna work on an EP, which will come out real quick, and that'll be real exciting when that drops.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's dope. I think got everything there.
I think that is everything we have.
Do you want to do any like promo?
So there's a Severed Beliefs release show, which is on the 15th of June.
Oh yeah.
So that's cool. All ages show in Ara Valley Community Hall. So it's in a hall. It's not like an actual venue, which is super cool. So the stage is going to be on the ground. And we've got a bunch of real cool bands supporting us. We have Zone Killer, which will be real sick, and in Cold War. Definitely give Cold War a listen. Super cool hardcore band from Wellington. Just dropped a music video actually. The production on it's super sick. If you're into like Knocked Loose, Harm's Way, any of that, like totally give it a listen. Deadringer wise, we'll have stuff coming out. We have an EP, Probs coming out this year. Probs do a couple more music videos. Give the Severed Beliefs demo a listen if you haven't already. It's okay. I can say it's okay. But yeah, that's it, eh? Like, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ian, for that. That was much appreciated for our first podcast on the NZ Music Show. That could be up for change.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Had a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we can do this again. Or maybe you'll have another band
Oh,
come
yeah.
out or something.
Yeah, bro. Just like me and my 9 side projects.
Sweet as man. Cheers for that.
Yeah, no, that's real funny. Yeah, Sebastian's super cool though. He's a sick cunt.
He is,
I
eh?
had good, yeah, he's super cool.